Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is Shantia here. So in today's video, we are doing a review for Married at First Sight, episode 13, season 13. So I actually did this review a couple of times, but I'm redoing it because I kind of wanted to soften and slightly change my opinion about the experts and honestly some of the couples. In this episode, all the couples got to see the experts, Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal. After rewatching it, I saw that I understood more of what they were doing. They were trying to sort of tackle the marriage, right? Because that's the whole point of the show, marriage advice. Let's focus on marriage advice as opposed to individual therapy, because some of the candidates just kind of have a whole list of issues that need to be addressed that has yet to be addressed, and honestly, like, they need to work on those things before they should be in the marriage. But because this is Married at First Sight, the experts are here to give marriage advice. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first couple I'm going to start with is Brett and Ryan, because obviously nothing really is happening with Brett and Ryan. And I think we can all assume that Brett and Ryan are not going to say yes. But I was surprised to see after rewatching it, Brett is very aware that Ryan isn't attracted to her. And Ryan is very aware he's not attracted to her. The problem is with communication and hurting people's feelings and learning how to be an adult. How do we have these difficult conversations? But even beyond that, like, just like Jamie Otis moved past the lack of attraction towards her husband, like, how can we move past the lack of attraction to trying to do something, like trying to make something happen, or trying to make a connection with a human being? So that's always my thing with this show. It's like, okay, maybe you're not feeling this intense attraction, but maybe you're feeling something, some kind of interest, sincerity. You know, he can see that she has a good heart, but Ryan's so focused on it, the idea of it being a marriage and him not wanting that or desiring that. He's just stuck at that. I have no problem with men saying that they're not attracted to someone and therefore the relationship can't progress. I think attraction is important. It's like a biological thing. If a man doesn't feel attraction, it's a biological thing. It's like, it's chemically hardwired into men to feel that attraction towards someone. So if it's not there, it's not there, right? You can't force it. Thinking back to what Ryan said about wanting the girl next door. Now, I had no idea up until last week what that even meant, until someone told me. They said the girl next door means the white picket fence. So it's like the perfect girl. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and probably skinny, right? So Brett she's a redhead. She's feisty, she's colorful, she's unique. You know, she is not that standard Ryan is attracted to standard. So does that make him superficial? You know, compared to Johnny, I would say that Ryan has the ability to at least be a gentleman. Being too much of a gentleman. I need you to like confront and like talk to me. Dr. Pepper addressed Ryan about his lack of effort, lack of trying. And Pastor Cal told Brett, hey, ask the hard questions. But when they actually got together, Ryan was actually willing to do a little bit of work, whereas Brett wasn't. Now, why is that? Again, she herself doesn't know how to have those difficult conversations. Ryan says, call me out. So I felt like he was just trying to put that signal out. And she kept kind of like passively saying, we just need to be honest with each other. She didn't straight up just say it. Like, what's the question? Are you not attracted to me? When did you give up on this marriage? Why did you give up? There's something in her that's stopping her from doing that. Some kind of fear, some kind of insecurity that's holding her back. And it doesn't matter if you're with someone who's not attracted to you, if you're with someone who is attracted to you. The fact of the matter is you have to know how to communicate. In your partnership, I'm willing to bet there are gonna be times where that person is maybe like not necessarily like not attracted to you, but maybe turned off by you. And you're gonna have to still be together and have those conversations. So how do you have conversations through that difficulty? That is her challenge. What I really would like to see Brett and Ryan do is, I'm not really seeing a lot of growth in the show, but perhaps moving forward, they can review what they've done and think about, okay, how can I move forward in being an effective communicator? Because communication is so important. We are not mind readers. There's a reason why we have our voice. It's there for us to connect with one another. And if we're not using it, if we're not using some kind of language to communicate with one another, then we just don't get it. They both can sense each other's feelings, or they can kind of sense or have an idea of what the other person is feeling, but there's no, you know, full-on clarity about, sorry, this hair is driving me crazy. There's no full-on clarity about what's happening. That's why you communicate. Brett said during the volleyball game, it seems like some people view this as a real marriage and some people do not. So I think her lack of communication also has to do with a punishment thing. I think women tend to do this thing where they tend to be very passive aggressive. They don't communicate because they're feeling like punishing. And this is kind of where I appreciate Bao. She says it all. She puts it all out there, you know, and she says exactly what she's feeling. Like, she says constructive things, you know, even if her and Johnny don't have the best way of connecting to one another. At least she communicates exactly what she's feeling. Rachel, the same thing. Although I think Rachel, you know, has been a little bit too sweet on Jose, like way too sweet. My thing is, I want to see them try something new, try something different, try to date each other, try to get to know each other on a human level and see what happens. Okay, so moving on to Rachel and Jose. So Rachel and Jose, we kind of already know their situation. They both are genuinely committed. They care about each other. I think Jose really, he has some really great qualities, right? Up until the lockout incident, he had presented himself as an incredible husband, and him and Gil were up there. Both of them energetically were just doing such a great job at being supportive husbands. But as we saw, he has this other side to him. So in his conversation with Dr. Pepper, he talked about, she addressed his controlling issues. Did he admit it or address it? Not necessarily. And with Pastor Cal, he talked to Rachel about, you know, having those conversations, bringing it up with Jose. So I'm always kind of blown away sometimes when the couples get with the experts and they haven't asked certain questions. Like, I would have thought that by now Rachel would have asked Jose, like, what triggered you to get to that point of anger and vindictiveness. Those are her words. She's very self-aware and aware that that's exactly what he was doing. It was anger and it was vindictiveness. My concern is that she glosses over it. It's not really something to be glossed over. When the two of them came back together and had their conversation in the lobby, again, Jose kept bringing up how they both have issues. We both, which is true, but Jose, come on. You locked your wife out of the door. In his conversation with Dr. Pepper, he said his question about his marriage, his concern was, what do I do if my wife leaves when things get hard? You mean when you locked your wife out the door, out of a home that wasn't even yours? Where is your accountability? She should be leaving. That's actually the safe, logical, emotionally smart thing for her to do, is to distance herself from you after doing that, because you didn't make her feel safe. You're lucky she came back. A lack of accountability on his side for sure. When he and Rachel were having their conversation about, okay, what do I do? She's like, okay, what triggered you? He said, I just have to cool off. That's not an answer. That's not an answer. That's a practical thing you can do to sort of temper down. But why did you get triggered? It wasn't because she addressed you right away. You were already waiting to be triggered, right? It was already, the pain body was ready to be ignited. The thorn was already ready. It was sitting in there. It was just waiting to be poked. It's insecurity for him. You know, there's the insecurity he is not fully addressing. He says he wants to do all the things that his parents didn't do in his marriage. I don't know what his parents did, but he failed. In that moment, he failed his wife. He cursed her out. He locked her out. Like, absolutely abusive action. Like, you can't paint it, you can't rename it any other way. Hopefully moving forward, he can address that, and hopefully he has some more self-awareness, but it's just not quite there. You know, self-awareness, I'm gonna say this. Even though Zach cries all the time and he's immature, he actually has a level of more emotional self-awareness than Jose. He takes more accountability, but he's not grounded. That's his thing. Jose is grounded, but he doesn't open up to really understanding himself and delving deep. So I'm really happy that Rachel and Jose want to commit and they want to work on this. You know, no marriage is easy. There are people who have gone through hell and back, if I may say it myself. There are people who have gone through hell and back and have still found a way to make their marriage work. But I have to say, it's like you want to do as much preventive things as you can to make your marriage successful before it gets to that point where you guys are hurting each other, because then you can't take that back. Moving on to Bao and Johnny. So Bao and Johnny is kind of the same song and dance. Now, I was really listening to Bao. She's very self-aware. She said she's afraid he doesn't have the emotional maturity to be a loving husband nor a father. She's like, I'm committed to this marriage. I don't think he's in it. He's 80% out. She's very aware of everything that's going on. Johnny doesn't take any true accountability. Again, it's like, what is with the lack of addressing anger? Anger isn't something you spew out. It's not something you say. You don't put it towards your partner. You don't react with it. You don't hit things. You don't do anything with it. It's just an emotion you process in your body. When you're emotionally mature enough, you don't react with anger. You respond with grace. But anger is something that you feel in your body. It's not something you're supposed to do anything with. You're not supposed to do anything. You're not supposed to say anything or hurt anyone with it. And so with Johnny, so I'm getting a sense, his father, right? I'm getting a sense, very hot-tempered. Johnny, very hot-tempered. Very hot-tempered. He doesn't see it that way because he hasn't addressed it. He hasn't said, oh, it's my anger. He called Bao. He said that Bao had so many red flags, but he is a red flag. He's a red flag. He's on fire all the time. He's reactive. Anything that Bao says, when they're in the bed talking about intimacy, and she wanted to bring up like compromise about like, but I want the romance. I want the physical intimacy in our partnership. Otherwise, it's not a marriage. He just got upset. If it's not his way, he throws a tantrum. He can't see that. You know, the minute Bao upsets him, he's rolling his eyes, he's throwing a tantrum, he's coming back with a mean comment about, I was never attracted to you the last 15 years that we haven't seen each other. So there's a lot of underlying issues and a lack of accountability that he's just not taking. With Bao in Unfiltered, Michaela said that Bao was saying a lot of things about Johnny that we weren't seeing on camera. But Bao said a lot of great things on camera in regards to Johnny that we have all said in response to watching him. You can't make that stuff up. She's very self-aware. She's way more self-aware than him. So she's just kind of preparing herself to leave. So Pastor Cal was talking about, you know, I've seen couples go through way worse, and I mean, the woman's defeated. Like, I know the experts, their job is to actually make them fight for the marriage, but sometimes you have to ask, like, for her own mental health, is this really worth it? That's what I really need the experts to start coming out with for her own mental insanity, which thankfully she does know her worth. She has a sense of it, but she's just trying to make it work for the sake of, right? They're in a marriage. But as you guys might have heard, Bao, obviously, there have been some rumors that Bao and Zach, have been mingling, and so obviously she decided to step away from that partnership with Johnny. Thank goodness, because he honestly shouldn't be in a relationship with anyone. He has a lot of work to do on his own. I know a lot of people generally need therapy. Like, I'm not saying that you have to be a perfect human being to be in a marriage, but there's a certain level of maturity that you need, or self-awareness that you need, to be in a thriving marriage or in a marriage that's somewhat stable. This one has no stability because Johnny is super unstable. One of the comments that my TV partner made was that Johnny is worse than a woman on her period. And I don't take offense to that because I know personally my experience as someone, now it's all about food and diet. When you get your hormones under control with food and diet, generally you're not reacting to that extent. But I would have to say that's not a very inaccurate description of Johnny and his moods. Johnny just has a really catastrophic mindset. He's always thinking, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. You can't be in a relationship with someone who's thinking like that all the time because it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Like, I don't want to have to convince you, make you feel calm and secure every 5 seconds that you're reacting. Like, that's draining on my nervous system. So let's go ahead and move on to Zach and Michaela. There's a level of awareness there. You know, they both are, what they are is they are intelligent. And I would have to say that Zach is way more emotionally mature than Michaela, even though Michaela is older. She thinks of herself as mature, you know, that's why she's so articulate, she's so intelligent, right, and so successful. But at the same time, she has the reactivity of, I want to say like a child, essentially. Like, you know, it's just very like 0 to 100 really quick, you know, tempers flying, lack of self-control. So In her conversation with Pastor Cal, she said that she wanted Zach to be happy. Now, that's a great thing to say. It's a wonderful thing for you to want and to desire for a partner. That makes me think, oh, you are definitely, you have your head on straight. But she said that specifically because she said, I don't like how if he's not happy, it affects me. And she was saying that I don't want to have to be responsible for his happiness and all of this stuff. I don't fully relate or quite understand why she communicated in that way. The thing about Zach is he lacks groundedness. It's not that he's waiting for her to make him happy. It's just that he can't handle her negative moods. He can't handle it. Zach said he wants her to be herself, and she says she wants to be herself, but she can't be herself. Now, this makes me question, what does she mean by that? At our core, we are centered, whole, creative, peaceful beings. At our core, that is our truest self. And so when you're saying be yourself, you mean pop off with anger? Again, what is anger? It's an emotion we feel in our body in reaction to something happening out here. It's not something you're supposed to respond or do anything with. It means maybe there are some boundaries you need to put up. Maybe there's something for yourself that you're needing, that needs nourishment, that needs healing. It doesn't mean hate on the world. It doesn't mean put your energy out there, your negative energy out there, because your energy affects people, and we're gonna get more into that with Mira and Gil. Your energy affects your partner. You have to be considerate of how you react with anger. That's why it's important to cultivate the tools to understand, how do I respond? How do I handle with my anger? How do I handle my grief? How do I handle anxiety? Am I taking into consideration how it affects my partner? So when she says be herself, is she saying, can I just be reactive? That's something you have to think and really consider, if that's what you mean by be yourself. Because at our core, we are peaceful. We are peaceful and we're centered. And I think people tend to lose sight of that because we get caught up in our ego and our personalities. This is just a clothing that we wear on a day-to-day basis. So Zach and Michaela both are, there's a lot of immaturity between the two of them. With Zach, his conversation with Dr. Pepper was about it was all focused on, him focusing on perfectionists. Now, Zach is easily influenced. He's ungrounded. And him being paired with Michaela is especially at a disadvantage for him because he's so easily influenced, which means the minute she pops off, he gets overwhelmed. So he responds so sensitively to his partners, to his environment, to the people who are around him. He's very sensitive. Yes, we saw him crying again. I thought it was fine for him to be crying with Dr. Pepper about the perfectionism, because that's a real insecurity that people have all the time. But Zach crying to the extent that he does, I think, is a representation of his, I don't want to say inability, but it's almost like just a lack of ability. It's not that it's not there. It's just there's a lack of ability to cope with difficult situations, to cope with when things don't work out. Zach is what I would consider an idealist optimist. So an idealist optimist is someone who they want so much, right, for things to be so great. And the minute that things are not great, everything just falls apart. And then you bounce back with the optimism. You gloss over digging deep and you're just like, okay, everything's gonna be fine. Zach is most definitely immature in a sense, because if he really thought about and considered Michaela's trauma and past, I know I didn't really care for Dr. Pepper telling him that he needs to make her feel secure. I absolutely don't believe that is good advice for any person. I feel like a person's security is their responsibility. Just like Pastor Cal was talking to Michaela about happiness. Your happiness is also your responsibility, but your spouse contributes. Now, I love that word that Pastor Cal used. Your spouse contributes to your happiness. I can't deny that. I'm around you all the time. I'm going to affect you to some extent, right? I don't believe we can make our partners feel secure, but we can, because they just need to kind of feel that on their own, but we can give them reassurance. We can tell them, hey, I'm here, I'm committed. But because Zach lacks groundedness, and he's not really grounded in who he is as a person, he can't be that for her. She does need a rock, But at the same time, she also needs to unpack all of those emotions and the healing and the trauma and all that. It needs to be dealt with. It needs to be looked at and seen, because reacting with this Hurricane Michaela thing is not, it's cute when you're maybe like 5. After that, it's not cute. It's dangerous. It's dangerous because now you're a grown person walking around making independent decisions and choices that affect people. Zach is, he was crying about the perfectionism, and then when Dr. Pepper was like, oh, just make her feel secure, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, and then he's like, I can be optimistic. So he's kind of up and down. Michaela is definitely hot and cold, but he's skittish. He's skittish. He's just ungrounded because he's not grounded in who he is. I think Zach is more emotionally evolved than Michaela, but he does have some maturing to do on his own. I say give him a few years. He'll be ready for marriage. Give him some therapy session, because obviously he needed a therapy session. Give him some therapy, and I think he can get there. I would definitely recommend for Zach become very grounded, and I would recommend meditation to get him there. So Michaela brought it up that Zach has performative issues, right? He says one thing, does another. Her issue is pride. Zach's issue is performative. Michaela's issue is pride. So they both need to work on those things. I feel like she just gets caught up in like the stubbornness. Pride, stubbornness kills it's a killer of opportunity to grow. Like, you have no idea how amazing of a person you can evolve into unless you're willing to drop that pride. Take the advice and work on whatever it is you need to work on. And Zach, he's so performative because he's a perfectionist and he's not grounded in who he is and what he really wants. And he's not allowing himself to really feel things. He's just kind of glossing over it to the point where it builds all up, and then he becomes overwhelmed. So he needs to feel those emotions. All right, so moving on to our last couple, Mira and Gil. So we got a viewing of drunk Mira, tipsy Mira. She was tipsy. I thought it was super cute. Now, why she was, I don't know if it was the day, but day drinking with her friends to the point that she got that tipsy. I don't know. I don't know why she did that. It could have to do with her anxiety and introvertedness, and maybe she was nervous, even though she said that she thought it was going to be boring. I don't know. Maybe it was scheduled that way. I don't know. All I know is she was adorable, and I loved seeing all of her feelings. It was actually really refreshing to see her very vulnerable. She feels very happy, very grateful about and towards Gil, being patient with her. And that's just so beautiful to see from someone, that they're so appreciative of their partner to that extent. You know, that's like my only hope for every person, is that they could be in a situation or a relationship that made them feel that happy, because everyone deserves that. Gil was having his conversation with Pastor Cal, and he said that she's very caring and loving, and he notes that. But his issue is the criticism, right? And he can't foresee dealing with that regularly. And Pastor Cal encouraged him to be very direct with her. And they had those conversations. What I love about Mira and Gil is that they know themselves. When they have their conversations, it's so steady. I don't like this. I would like you to do this. I like more affection. I don't like it when you criticize all the time. It affects me. What can I do to be a buffer to that? Oh, well, you can use your humor, that works for me. They understand themselves. They pay attention to themselves. They're very reflective and self-aware of what's going on in the partnership as well as within themselves, how they're reacting to their partner. They're paying attention to that. So they know exactly, it's not hard for them to communicate because they just go straight for, this is what I need from you. I think Gil and Pastor Cal made a really good point of talking about the criticism and the Debbie Downer energy, because being critical is not an attractive quality for any person, because it is a lower energy. It does bring people down. We do have to be considerate of how that affects people. And so there are other ways for us to deal with that. You know, Gil was talking about the affection, but there are other ways for us to deal with that need to be critical towards everything. And it's not really cute. I personally don't like being around. Here's the thing. I love my parents to death. I was raised by two very critical people, and I had to unlearn that behavior because I didn't want to be that way. I didn't like being around it, so I didn't want to be that way all the time towards other people. But yeah, it does affect people. So we really need to take into consideration how our moods, our criticism affects those we are around. And I thought that was a great lesson to be reminded of. So that is my review for Married at First Sight. I think we kind of know where all of the couples are going. I think Mira and Gil, Rachel and Jose are going to be fine. Brett and Ryan, I'd be surprised if they said yes. Zach and Michaela can say yes and then change their mind, but Bao and Johnny, I think, are a no-go because it's not working. So I'm looking forward to what decision day brings. I think we're all kind of surprised that Mira and Gil ended up being the front runners of Married at First Sight, but I'm just happy to see people do well. It just kind of goes to show that slow and steady wins the race. And hey, why not? We can all learn from that. There's no need to rush There's no need to rush marriage. You know, take your time. Take your time. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day or evening. If you guys are interested in more content from me, then please go ahead and like, subscribe, or hit the bell notification. And as you guys know, this channel is dedicated to helping women, well, if you've been watching, it's dedicated to helping women live in a way that feels the most natural to them. But also, I welcome my masculines as well. Thanks for supporting the channel. Go ahead and tune in for the next review of Married at First Sight next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.